All right, again, Saturday, it's the fourth Saturday of the month. That's a really big deal for us. That's when we have our coming together across the country. We call it the National Summit. We make sure we close out what we did the last 30 days since the last summit. This video, the title, if you saw it, it says, are we too busy for our own good? And so in this video, I want to examine and talk about each person, each company, each organization in regards to two things: innovation and bureaucracy. Those are two terms. So if you're writing this down, write those two terms down: bureaucracy on one side, innovation on the other one. And then the fact is, in this day and age, people are busier. Like never before in the history of mankind have we had the world this connected. So that means things are getting to you quicker than they did 20, 30 years ago. 20, 30 years ago, I can call you, and if you're not home, I don't reach you. That's not the case now. You have your phone with you, so I have access to you as long as you have your phone. What that means is you're going to have less time for yourself because everyone have access to you. So if you don't put up internal controls in your own life, what'll happen is you will always be bombarded. So you got to have an internal mechanism that tells you how you want to interact with anybody. And if you don't have that, next thing you know, everyone will be bombarding you and you won't get things done for yourself. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, what is bureaucracy? Bureaucracy is a mechanism where all sides get a chance to see, vet, give perspective on things before it goes forward. Our governments are bureaucracies. You have it right now in America, the Democrat-Republican system. So in most governments, if you want to do something, all sides get a chance to have a say-so. Every department has to do their part. It takes longer, but bureaucracies are necessary. Bureaucracies have pros and cons to it, but you need bureaucracies. They are the guardrails to prevent things from getting to the people too quickly. So look at it that way. Now, what is innovation? Innovation, on the other hand, is free flow. It's new ideas, new concepts, and it is taking something that normally would be said to be not available or not applicable and finding a way to make it work. So picture that as free flow. What I like to analyze innovation with is keeping up with the times by adjusting whatever it is that you're doing. So there you go. That's the two models: innovation and bureaucracy. Now let's look at each of us. So if you look around, a lot of people say, I'm busy, and they are busy because the world has changed and they may not have set up the internal controls to protect themselves. So what do I mean by that? What is your process? If you're really busy, what is your internal process to receive help? What is your so if you say I need volunteers, but you don't have time to train the volunteers, then you will have a bunch of people sitting around asking you what to do, and that takes you away from what you're doing. So you need to build up how you receive volunteers. So you may say, I'm gonna receive volunteers 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week. So I got 2 days to do what I have to do. That's, again, creating, thinking through what mechanism you're going to have so that you can receive the help that you say you need. The other thing with receiving help is looking in the mirror and saying, am I wasting time? Am I being efficient? You know, efficient means least amount of waste or rework. So that's another piece to it. So when I look at the black movement and what's happening to us, it's a lot of wasted time, wasted resources, a lot of sitting around discussing versus everyone having action steps and carrying it out. I'm going to stop here and come back on the other end of the video. All right, you guys, here's the second part of the video. I was talking about making sure that you have guardrails in your life to make sure you can onboard help that you say you need. So let's transfer this over to Chicago and pretty much Black America. So if people are saying that, you know, we got all these problems, all these issues affecting us, I don't know where to begin, that's a realistic feeling. Like it could be overwhelming with the conditions of our community. But here's what I wanted to really get out there. First and foremost, please take whatever you know about our struggle and put it in timeout, push it to the side here. And the reason I say that is because what I'm about to say to you is somewhat controversial or outside the box. So if you stay in the box, this won't make sense to you. So take what you know about our struggle, push it over here for the 3 minutes or 5 minutes, however long it takes for me to do this video. All right, when we say what is our number one issue or what issues are affecting us, we are missing the whole point. Like when we ask that question, that's not even the point. It's not about what issues we're dealing with as black people. And here's why. Because outside of the issues, we're dealing with something deeper than that. And as a black person, our number one challenge is the fact that we're fighting whatever the issue is. It's a lot of issues. We're fighting with one hand tied behind our back. So that's the real issue, is whatever people say the issue is: health, education, safety, youth, economics. The real issue is you black, and in this country, you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back. And the reason I say that is 3 reasons. Number one, you're up against a system, and you're talking about an individual issue. So that's one thing, system versus issue. Second is because of where you live at. You've already been isolated, starved, and exploited based on your zip code in America. And the third thing is unnecessary internal competition. Blacks are competing with each other when it's not necessary to do that. So those are the 3 reasons why I say we're fighting with one hand tied behind our back, so we don't even have to talk about issues of education, safety. Doesn't matter. It's a bigger issue, and that is, how do we make certain that we stop fighting a system individually? You know what I mean? We're outnumbered just because of what you're up against. So let's talk about this system. Let's talk about that. So a system means individual parts working together under one umbrella or one whole. That's what a system is. Individual parts working together under one whole or umbrella. With that in mind, what's an example? Think about the criminal justice system, right? And this is why it's dangerous when you hear black people say, we need to come together. Like, oh, that's dangerous. Don't say that. Be careful when you say we need to come together. Because come together who? Come together for what? And what you go get done when you come together. I'm not saying we shouldn't come together, but we got to be strategic about who's coming together. Can't just have everybody coming together. All right. So let's go through the system. Police officer. What do they do in this criminal justice system? They arrest people. You got the judge. What do they do in the system? They sentence people. What do the correction officer do in the system? They make sure that you go to bed and keep you locked up. That's their job. What do the parole officer do in the system? They make certain that when you get out, they verify where you at, that you keeping looking for a job, and so forth. The correction officer, the police, the judge, they don't come together. Like, there's no need for them to come together. Come together for what? Each one of them got to know their part and do their part. That's what they do. They know their part, do their part. The judge never had to go and meet with the parole officer or never had to go and talk to the correction officer. But when black people say we need to come together, that tells you we're being emotional instead of being strategic. We need to know our part and do our part. So at the 4-minute mark, I'm going to come back after this. All right, here we go. So I was saying, know your part and do your part. That's what we have to do, because we're up against a system and we're trying to fight it individually. So again, coming together is it can be dangerous for us, you guys. Think about another example of coming together. In new construction, when do the steel worker that lay the steel for these office buildings, when do they come together with the drywallers or the electricians? They don't. There's no need for the steel worker and the drywaller to talk. Each one of them have their part. They got to do their part, and that's it. That's how this is designed. They don't have to come together and discuss nothing. So the key for us is to stop thinking we got to physically come together to get things done. We got to know our part and do our part. The other thing, when you know your part, do your part, is really about the internal controls. The steel worker has things that he or she must execute in order to lay that steel. The electrician have things they got to do in order to lay the wire. So it's all about knowing your part, but it's the internal controls that give you the direction to do that. Another internal control, which is critical. So when I hear black people say we need to come together, what I'd rather hear us say as black people is, what are our internal controls so we can get things done for the culture? What are our internal controls? Think about a car. Every car right now has 5 fluids in it. That if that engine didn't have internal controls, these fluids would be all over the place and your car would not go. Every car has oil in it. Every car has gas in it. Every car has power steering fluid in it, transmission fluid in it, and brake fluid in it. If you didn't have internal controls to keep them things separate, all them fluids would be together and the car won't go. So again, when we say come together, think about the lack of internal controls. It's like having an engine with all those fluids touching each other, and it's just not going to go nowhere. So we as black people got to stop talking about coming together. We got to talk about what is our part, and are we going to do our part? And we got to make sure our internal controls are there, which is why I've been pushing this algorithm. Because if we take time and focus and learn what the algorithm is, we'll know our lane, we can stay in our lane, know our part, and do our part. And then we can fight back strategically instead of talking about coming together. Remember, the carpenter did never have to get together with the painter. There's no need for that. They got to know their part, do their part. As black people, we got to know our part, do our part. The algorithm, which is, and people don't know what the algorithm is pieces of information that is encrypted and it predicts outcomes. It's pieces of information encrypted and it predicts outcomes. So when you study the algorithm I posted, you'll see it's coded. Those codes link you to people who's doing whatever that outcome is. So BW3, that means nurses. So there are people focused on living healthier. So if you know that, it's telling you when those people meet. Now you just plug into with them people. If you ignore that, if you ignore that code, that algorithm, what you're doing is ignoring all those nurses who dedicated and took time out of their busy schedule to be available on that third Wednesday of the month. So that's how big this algorithm is. It's our system. So when people tell me the number one issue is health, education, safety, you don't even understand. The bigger issue is you fighting with one hand tied behind your back because you up against a system and you trying to fight issues. Just don't go together. Thanks for watching. Please share this video with others. Peace.